biggest thing, and especially if we're talking about literacy, graphic novels are books. Graphic novels are novels. Graphic novels might actually be the gateway to get your child to enjoy reading. If we want to talk about like literary merit, that's something that middle schoolers don't need to be worried about. They'll get there. They will get to the concept of quote unquote literary merit. They'll have to read a book that they don't care about. So let's save them.
We know.
Okay?
Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Literacy Launchpad Read, Learn, Grow. Today's episode, we'll be talking about the gift of reading, holiday book recommendations for every age. And today's special guest is Casey Rose Frank, who is the owner of the Golden Bee Bookshop in Liverpool, New York. Casey, thank you so much for being on the podcast and welcome.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited that we were able to have this conversation, but also for the time that we've spent together so far, just chit-chatting and talking about your bookstore and how it started and all the wonderful things you have going on. Before we kick off with questions around holiday books and your guidance and suggestions, why don't you introduce yourself and let the viewers and listeners get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you introduced me so nicely, I am Casey Rose Frank, the owner of Golden Bee. That's in the village of Liverpool. I also live in the village. I have a 4-year-old, so a lot of my book recommendations are informed by her choices and her preferences. And I really love cheese, and I like a good dessert.
Ooh, okay. So there's lots to talk about there. I love cheese too. My body doesn't. Either does my cholesterol. Dessert, I make them all the time, so I can't say anything about that. I'm here for all of it.
Excellent. And they naturally pair well with books. Cheese and books, great pairing. Books and dessert, great pairing. So
Also,
I mean,
wine,
just a win
cheese,
all
and
around.
books. Like, I mean, you have a little snack, little crudité table going on, nice little book, cozy little nook someplace. I'm vibing for that.
I know, but now you have me wanting to end the podcast so that I can go into a nook with a little charcuterie and a book, but that's okay. I'm ready to.
You need to schedule it for later today. Give yourself a 30-minute.
Oh my gosh, that
block.
makes so much more sense.
Yeah. So you mentioned that a lot of your book choices are relevant to your 4-year-old daughter. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what she's reading these days and what her interests are?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like many 4-year-olds, her interests are varied, inconsistent, and really hard to keep track of. But when it comes to books, really anything that makes her laugh, right? And that's one of the biggest gateways to just reading in general, is anything that makes her laugh. 1,000,000 gold stars for books that also make me laugh, because the bar for her laughter is sometimes, admittedly, a little bit lower than mine. But there are books like Don't Trust Fish that I could read 1,000,000 times. She could hear it 1,000,000 times. And it is important to learn about why you can't trust fish.
Yeah. I mean, that's the title itself gives a lot away about what the book could be.
I mean, it is literally, there we go. Well, just don't.
Just don't trust
Don't
fish.
trust fish.
And this is her favorite book. Why? I mean, it sounds like it might be your favorite book too, as well.
Yeah, I mean, amongst many, yes. But one of the reasons why I do love it is because it's illustrated by Dan Santat. He's a Caldecott medal winning illustrator. And so he just brings such life and energy and interest to all of these illustrations. And that's what you want for the kids in particular, right? Something that is visually engaging.
Mm-hmm.
And then the story itself is about why you can't trust fish. And maybe it's discovered by the end that it's not a human writing this book.
Oh.
Maybe.
Okay. So it's not a holiday book, but I think it is a book that could be a good one to read.
Yes.
So
it is. I mean, I could tape a Santa hat to the fish and we could
add words and add Santa. Although the author probably won't be happy with us, but
No, Neil Sharpson will say, hard pass, guys.
Pass.
I don't want this.
Oh, it could be just a limited edition that we can now just have him. I mean, look at us. Look at us. Who would have thought?
I know. Yeah. And he's going to be like, thank you so much for this idea. I'd like to return it. And we'll say, sorry, no returns. We're doing this now.
From your perspective, so one of the things that I love to uncover in conversations with my guests on the podcast is always talking about the community and locally and understanding like where your experiences come in from what you've seen in your bookstore and having had it for 6 years now, right? I think you're in your sixth year.
Mhm.
What have you found from the holiday perspective as to like what readers are looking for, what people who come in to either buy books or read them while they're there or enjoy them? What has been a common theme for that?
I think one of the nicest things is that when people come specifically to Golden Bee to look for books, it's because they know they're not going to find nothing but the same exact books that you can find anywhere else.
Mm.
That isn't shade against the general sort of more typical titles that you can go to Barnes and Noble and see. People come here because we either have things that are a little off the beaten path, or you can very easily find things that include representation of your family. So you're going to be able to find children's books with two dads. You're going to be able to find children's books with two moms. You're going to be able to find even books where maybe it's not parents, maybe it's a grandparent, or maybe it's a non-binary parent. We've had feedback from some of our customers in particular that the representation for people of color in books is blatant and intentional at Golden Bee in a way that they haven't been able to experience at Barnes and Noble. And so I think that to be able to come and get something that really speaks to you and to your family means a lot. And then I think speaking specifically to the holidays, I think we just are fun. And why wouldn't you want to go do holiday shopping, especially for kids, in a place that's fun, that has a dedicated space specifically for kids?
I love that. And thank you for doing that. It's a very, first off, it's a hard thing to do in today's climate to make that choice and decide that that's where you're going to find how you show up for your community and show up for people who are looking for something as an outlet for safety and wanting to introduce that into their family. So thank you for doing that. But also, like, what a fun and cool way to show your difference in what other bookstores perhaps are doing or could be doing, and why you're just not like another brick and mortar, so to speak, in a way. When you think of the selection of books, bookstores obviously have books for all ages, but what would you say is some of the things that are coming on strong right now from different demographics of age? So if you're looking at the pre-kindergarten age group, what are some of the popular books that you're finding there for the holidays, or that you would want people to consider and think about when they're looking at books for either buying as a gift or books that they're thinking about perhaps buying for their own children?
Yeah, absolutely. So for that demographic, one of the ones I really love, there's parents, teachers, everybody in the world already knows who Mo Willems is to some degree, but Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Sleigh is a fantastic book. It's really fun to read, both as an adult and as a child. And I think that's the sweet spot for a lot of these books. Anything really in the Pigeon series is an absolute gem, but this is a really fun one for the holidays. The next book I want to talk about, I have a level of obsession with that is probably unhealthy. And someday someone's going to write to Adam Rex and be like, listen, we need you to be aware of this woman.
We found a woman.
Because she is too cuckoo bananas about your books. But the rest of my staff feels this way too. And so that is The 13th Day of Christmas by Adam Rex. I laughed so hard. I laughed out loud reading this book. And then I cried a little. And it wasn't sad tears. It was happy tears. And this book literally packs it all in. And so I'm sorry that this is only for the people who are looking, at the video and not for just the listeners. You're going to have to picture it in your head. Okay. Or come to the store and see it.
Come to the store.
But just what if every day for the 12 days of Christmas, you kept getting the way that it's actually done? So what if you got a pear tree every single day? And then you also got and so how many pear trees and birds and singers and dancers and cows and things would you have?
That's a lot.
And then what do you do with them?
Wait, is that what the book
What do you
is
do
about?
with them? Yes.
Oh my God.
How can you use them for good?
Oh, for good. I'm dying right now because I'm learning something new about books for children, which I don't feel like existed when it was in my age group when I was a kid. Like the books weren't that funny. I think there's just
Oh,
a
no.
different sense of humor that is now allowed, maybe, or it's just more socially acceptable for books that just give this nuance of like, what if you had how many partridges in a pear tree? Is that 12 times 13 or 2 times 13, right? Two for each day, is it? I don't know.
Well, so yeah, anyway, it
Yeah,
exponentially
it's a
keeps,
lot.
yeah,
It's a lot.
growing.
It's a lot. How about that?
But I think that that's a really intentional change. I think that one of the best ways to meet kids where they are,
Mm.
how they see the world, what is going to light them up, what is going to help them pay attention is humor. I think that's true for a lot of adults too, but specifically, so often kids just want to laugh, and laughter, I think, is an aspect of play. And we know for a fact that play is how children learn. So to sort of have that degree of laughter built into books, I think is really a necessary thing. And that's not to say that you can't read serious books with kids. Goodness knows that in order to explain emotions and things, like we love a book that tells kids how to identify and regulate their emotions. But in terms of getting them excited about reading and getting them excited about the holidays, you want to have a good laugh.
I think that's a really good. That was like one of the questions I had was how can parents encourage a love of reading during the holiday season? And you hit the nail on the head with so many different themes. I think also elements of like just our conversation an hour before we hit the record button, we were just like laughing the whole time. And there is something about bringing joy and laughter into reading that is sometimes not every book has to have a strong theme or story, but it could also have an element of joy and laughter that can resonate with the person who's reading it and bringing them into that world. When we think of like the next age group, I know like we have a strong sense and focus in this podcast of young children and adolescents and toddlers, but like let's think of like that preteen group. What do you have for that? Or is there any topics or books that you would recommend?
Of course. And so truly, I think the thing that I want to front load immediately is that teenagers are children too.
Yes.
And like middle schoolers and all of these, I mean, hot take, I think I didn't feel like a grown up until I was 28, but that's neither here nor there. But I think in particular in the holiday season, there's sort of this, well, we don't have to create, wonder or whimsy or joy for a 16-year-old. And I want to tell you that you're wrong. And you need to provide them with joy, or at least an opportunity for joy. They might say that they're too cool for it, but to at least invite them to have that. But to speak more to sort of that next age group, I'm here to change everyone's mind who thinks that they don't want graphic novels for their kids.
Okay.
The biggest thing, and especially if we're talking about literacy, graphic novels are books. Graphic novels are novels. Graphic novels might actually be the gateway to get your child to enjoy reading. If we want to talk about like literary merit, that's something that middle schoolers don't need to be worried about. They'll get there. They will get to the concept of quote unquote literary merit. They'll have to read a book that they don't care about. So let's save them.
We know.
Okay. I was going to, because it's a guarantee.
You're
I
guaranteed,
say this
yeah.
to somebody.
I can't remember. I mean, there's so many books in 11th and 10th grade. I'm just like, God, this is horrible. And it was stale. And it was like, why am I reading this book? What is the point of this? Yeah.
And even to do it even earlier, I have memories of being in 6th grade and in 7th grade and reading these books that have no relation to my current life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing it because it is expected of me. And I am doing the reports and I'm doing the assessments of the metaphors and all of that. And I'm not saying that there isn't value there. I'm just saying that maybe that's not the gift that you give your kids. Like I promise you, they're going to read books they don't want to read at school. So do them a favor. Let them learn to love reading first and then figure out literary merit when they go to school. Like that's really the best way that you can sort of.
Yeah. Such a powerful, strong message. I can't emphasize that enough. That's really important. I think that that's intersection of like where it could be a change or a turning point in that adolescent teenager's life where they just flip that switch of like, I'm not reading books anymore because they've become full on boring. You lose that like thrill for what could be fun.
Yeah. And that's, I think, preventable, which is why, in particular, as a small business owner, I'm here to hype graphic novels for people when they come in, but I don't expect them to necessarily buy them from me. And I think that's, again, we were talking about my accountant being like, Casey, make better choices. And I'm sure she would have some thoughts about me being like, you don't have to buy this. But the reason why, truly, is because one of the sticking points for people with graphic novels is the price point. And I totally understand that. Because when you compare it to a middle grade novel, a middle grade paperback is going to be $8, $9. And a graphic novel is often, in the teens. Like you're spending anywhere from like $13 to $20 on a graphic novel. And I always hear parents say they read them so fast. And so I will say, if that is really a sticking point for you, that cost of a graphic novel is the barrier to entry for you, then do not buy it from me. There is a library just around the corner. I promise you there's also a library somewhere in your community, and have them get the graphic novels at the library. Now, again, my accountant would be like, stop telling people to not buy things from you. And I would say, hang on a second, because graphic novels invite the senses in a way that got kids first interested, right? Picture books, you have the imagery. Two, for kids who actually have a hard time with tracking, kids who have a hard time with the actual physical logistics of a book, of the format, of the font, of the way that the page is set up, they don't have that problem with graphic novels, and they're able to follow the story better. Why would you not want to give your young reader an opportunity to meet them where they are and have them enjoy a story in a format that works for them? Like, I can't hype it enough, which is a long-winded way of saying that I also want to tell you about Gnome and Rat First Snow.
What?
This is a graphic novel. The author and illustrator actually lives in the Syracuse area. This is the third book in the series, and it's really delightful. And again, it's fun for adults and for kids. So that is one I would give a recommendation for. And then, so this is sort of both middle grade and young adult. And I think this is spectacular. And I think my 4-year-old really kind of put it the best way, where she said, I want to open a treasure every day. And I was like, yeah, I want to open a treasure every day too. And so this is Jingle All the Way Home. And so these are 24 stories that are sealed. So it's a whole book, but you only get to open like the chapter that is for that day. So it's sort of like an advent.
Oh.
So it's a story every day. And there's also one for teens, and it's a romance one. And it's the same thing, that you only get to open the chapter for that day. And it's an overarching story. And I think getting to do something like that sets a really great tradition, for families as well, to be like, hey, we're going to turn the lights down and it's time to read today's chapter before we go to bed. And I think that these are absolutely inspired.
Also, like, how much fun is that there's books that create a sense of you can't wait to get to the next section, but you have to wait a day. Like, that just creates a whole different energy. And it's the opposite of like, I can't wait to put this book down. That's actually, if like you're really energized about like this book and the content in it, like the storyline, you're going to want to like know what that character's doing and what the next thing is going to happen. That is genius, like hands down.
Yeah,
like,
I really love
putting a spin on Advent in a way never like really thought.
And it's good for, readers like me, where I don't know how to stop reading the book that I'm reading. And so it's like a nice little exercise. And like, is this what it's like to not, binge an entire book in one sitting? Who knew? I guess you can read books just a chapter a day.
I mean, you couldn't put a book down that for after 50 pages?
Yeah, which honestly, those are the days before I had a kid. But anyway. And I would say, again, for families who want to do something like this, who you either can't access this book or whatever, you can build the same thing again with your library books. I would say get a basket and pick like a series of books so that the kids can see it. They can have that same anticipation and be like, okay, so like tonight we're going to read this one. And then they know they have another one the next night. So this does not have to be something that you purchase to create that anticipation and that excitement.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. At least you have like kind of that collection set already and you're prepared for it, especially if you're going through a 3 or 4 week period of like where you're introducing this and you're doing this together as a family. Now, what else do you have? I know you have like a grouping of books where we were talking
I
before years
do.
ago. I can't wait to see what these are. So I don't know what the books are for those of you who are listening and watching this. So as she's bringing them out, I'm being introduced to them for the first time as you are. So my face is saying all different things because I'm like having the best moment.
I know. I feel like sort of like the Vanna White of books right now. It's delightful.
You're serving every consonant and vowel.
As I start like flipping the books over and you're like, this is the opposite of what we needed. So the next book I want to talk about is for middle grade, but I read it for the first time in my 30s. So really, I think this is delightful for readers of all ages. And the content is such that if you do have some early readers who want to listen to a story, aren't quite ready to read it independently, this is another good one. So Green Glass House takes place on the Christmas break for our young protagonist, which makes it such a fun time to read this book. I feel like this whole interview is going to be me talking about the times I told people to not buy books. And it's
Don't do it.
what a
Your
terrible
kids are gonna
business
call you the
model.
minute they see
I
this.
know, I know. And I'll deserve it. But it was because I was talking about how much I loved this book, but it was July. And I was like, don't read this now. And they were like, okay. And like putting it back. And I'm like, I promise though, it's worth it to read it during the Christmas break when it is set.
You could have made sure they got the book and then sent them a reminder in November,
No,
December. You just said,
yeah.
don't read this now.
Yes. And I forcibly took it away from them. No.
Oh my
No,
goodness, I love it.
instead, I recommended something that they could read
A
right then.
summer fling vibe thriller or something.
Or, yeah, exactly. Or a graphic novel, because pushing them hard.
Got so many
So
of them.
I actually, yeah, I'll have to maybe at some point tilt my screen and you can see my dedicated section. It's a mystery. It's very gentle while also dealing with some like serious things. And it's the first in a series. And I truly, truly love it. And I have such a distinct memory of being, again, in my late 30s, curled up on the couch with the snow falling outside, reading this book and being like, this is real life magic. Like, this is
Mm.
getting to be in this world and it's actually snowing outside and I'm all warm and cozy. And so I think families will absolutely have a blast with Green Glass House, and that's Kate Milford. This is not strictly holiday, but anyone who knows me and anyone who has ever been to Golden Bee knows that I cannot hype Nevermore enough, the Morrigan Crow series. And I do have to say, sort of similar to the Harry Potter series, which we do not sell in the bookstore, that there is an element around the holidays and sort of like how they celebrate. And so in this world, it's Santa and the Winter Queen, and they have a duel like a duel of spectacle. Not a fight. Boy, was that misleading. A duel of spectacle. God, I'm imagining like fisticuffs with Santa and like what a weird story for your kids. But instead, it's them doing various like elaborate performances to see like who quote unquote wins Christmas. And so that's one that I really, really love.
I love that. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all the other things that I'm sure we would love to share, but I'm also thinking about time. What are some of the things you would want listeners to take away from? And I think you shared so many golden nuggets already, but what are some of the things you would want listeners to know about from the holiday perspective as we're going into the December month and, this holiday season? It's weird to think that we're in Thanksgiving week, but Christmas is literally right around the corner, or Hanukkah is also right around the corner, and Kwanzaa as well, all the holidays that are in December. When we think about reading and this time with family and this time to like reflect and celebrate, is there anything that you feel as a book owner really is something you would want as a parting gift for folks?
I think one of the most wonderful things you can do is pick a book that is a tradition to read every year and don't make it one of the ones that everyone else is going to be reading. That is, again, not to cast any aspersions on the classics. They're classics for a reason, like The Night Before Christmas and The Polar Express, but they're going to be saturated with that pretty much anywhere. And so I speak from experience in that the tradition growing up was that every year my mom read Santa Cows. It is an unhinged book. I don't think it's in print anymore, probably because of how unhinged it is. But I was delighted that this was a book that we only read at Christmas time. And as I got older, I actually took over and I started reading it to my mom. Like my mom would be decorating Christmas cookies, doing her thing. And I'd be like, okay, it's time for Santa Cows. And I would get the book out and I would read it and I would hold, like you do with the pictures and be like, Mom, please like look up from your cookies. Here we are.
Attention.
And so maybe
down.
Yeah. Maybe it's the 13th day of Christmas. Maybe it's something else, and keep it something special that you only bring out for the holidays. And it ties that good feeling and that enjoyment. And then we also have sort of, in addition to like those Advent books, we have something similar for much younger kids too, where it is just like knowing that each day of the month you get to get a little piece of the story, a little bit of something else. And I don't think of any other time of year where we really break down time that way. And so to sort of break down time in increments leading up to Christmas, or even like the 8 nights of Hanukkah. Hanukkah's kind of early this year with it starting on the 14th. But I don't know many other things where you're allowed to be like, let's not only do this thing, but let's do this thing like day after day after day. I've heard people try and do it for their birthdays, but then you're just like, don't be that person. We're not going to celebrate your birthday for 25 days. So Christmas is sort of unique.
Your birthday's on the 31st and the 30th, and you have a whole month of doing it.
Yeah. So let's...
Yeah, good for you for celebrating your birthday for a month. I'm here for that. Love that for everyone.
Although I'm like saying this and I'm imagining someone somewhere being like, my birthday's on Christmas. And me being like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean you. Yeah.
You're the exception because of the date. I love that. So before we kind of end our episode today, how can people find you and connect with you? I know you told them that your bookstore is located in the village of Liverpool, which I love, and very quaint. But where can people connect with you if they want to find you?
Yeah, so the aforementioned physical location, you can also find us on Instagram and Facebook. And then the thing that I really, really, really want everyone to be aware of is bookshop.org. So bookshop.org is an incredible organization, and that you can buy books online there instead of the A word that I don't want to say out loud. And the best part is you can pick us as the affiliate to get a percentage of your sale, or pick another independent bookstore. Pick an independent bookstore in your hometown. Pick an independent bookstore that is friends with your grandma. Pick an independent bookstore run by dogs. I don't care, because everyone who is receiving some percentage of that is through bookshop.org. And in addition, they have a community pool. And so there's a payout in January and July. And it can literally be the difference between keeping your doors open or not when you get that little community pool fund to suddenly be like, you know what? This is just $600 that I didn't know that I was going to be getting. Like, this wasn't specifically from any of the money specifically in the brick and mortar. And no one gets into independent book selling to become a millionaire.
No.
Not a one.
Yeah, no. Not one person.
No. And if they do, yikes. Anyway, I think that to know that literally just shifting from stop ordering your books from the big A place and other places that don't care. They don't care about your community. They don't care about you. Order them from bookshop.org. It doesn't have to be for our benefit, just the benefit of independent bookstores everywhere. And similarly, Libro FM is the answer for audiobooks. That is specifically for the promotion of independent bookstores as well. Which also another shout out to Nevermore, because the audiobook for Nevermore is amazing. So if you're going on a road trip, like many people are this month and next month, please use libro.fm to get your audiobooks.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing all these golden nuggets. It's been such a joy to spend some of your day with us today and for you to share so many of the magical books that you have in your bookstore. And for people to find you and connect with you, I always want to make sure that our local bookstores and bookshops get some recognition, some voice, but also like recognizing the power of reading and recognizing where they can find some of those golden treasures that they may not think that exist for them right in their community. So Casey, this was amazing. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jose. This was wonderful.
Until the next episode. Thanks, folks. And if you enjoyed this one, be sure to share it with a friend or a loved one. We'll talk to you soon.